Hello dear learners, I am Mr. Abhijit Palse, Assistant Professor at dtss College of Commerce. In previous video tutorial, we have learned about introduction of data model and we covered two types of model, hierarchical and network model. So in this tutorial class, we will focus on other types of data model. So let me now take you the subtopics that we will cover in this video tutorial. Firstly, we will discuss about entity relationship model. Then we will discuss about relational data model, and finally we will give focus on object data model. So friends, let's start with ER model. ER model stands for entity relationship model. It is a high level data model. It was developed by a great computer scientist, Dr. Peter Chen, in 1976. This model is beneficial in developing a conceptual design for the database. It is incredibly simple and easy to design logical view of data. So developers can easily understand the system by just only viewing an ER model constructed. For example, MySQL Workbench, PostgreSQL and Oracle. So in this diagram, rectangle represents the entity. For example, doctor and patient. Ellipse represent the attributes. Attributes describe the entity which becomes a crucial part of data stored within a database. For example, doctor ID, doctor name, patient ID, patient name, and diamond represents the relationship in ER diagram. For example, here relationship is doctor diagnoses the patient. Now let me tell you what is an entity first. So entity is nothing but what something which is in a real world thing. That means which can be either physically present in a real world or which is having something logic behind it. For example, student, teacher, chalk, duster. These are the physical entities, and adult is a logical entity because there is a logic behind adult, right? A person age 18 plus is known as adult. Then attributes are nothing but certain properties or characteristics of an entity, and which are represented by using oval shape here, like doctor ID, doctor name, patient ID, patient name. And relationship is a connection or association between two entities. Here a relationship is a doctor diagnoses patient. So diagnosis is a relation. For example, if the teacher teaching to student, then that teaching is nothing but the relationship, and which is represented by a diamond shape. Now we will see the advantages of ER model. So first advantage is conceptually it is very simple. So ER model is extremely simple because if we all know relationship between entities and attributes, then we will easily draw an ER diagram. Second advantage, better visual representation. So ER model is diagrammatic representation of any logical structure of database. So by just looking into ER diagram, we are able to easily understand the relationship among entities and the attributes and so on. Third advantage is effective communication tool. So it's a good communication tool for database designers. So designers can easily communicate with each other through this diagram. Fourth advantage is highly integrated with relational model. So whenever we are using ER model, we can easily convert that ER model into relational model for storing a data, right? So that ER model diagram gets converted into tables. Next, easy conversion to any data model. So ER model can be easily converted to any other data model like hierarchical data model or network data model and so on. Now next is disadvantages of ER model. So first disadvantage is loss of knowledge content. So as we have seen here, whenever we draw the ER model, some of the information can be hidden or lost because the actual data is not get stored over here, right? Second is limited relationship representation. So ER model only represents some limited relationship as compared to other data models like relational model. Third is no representation of data manipulation. So here the actual data is not get stored, so that's why it is difficult to manipulate it. Next disadvantage, lack of support for business rule. So ER model do not provide any kind of support for business rules, and which make it difficult to ensure data integrity and enforce the constraint. Now let me tell you what is integrity and constraint first. So integrity is the term which is regarding a changes. If you want to do any changes into the data, then that is known as data integrity, and constraint is certain rules and regulations that we need to apply, and this model does not support it. Now we'll see the next model to overcome from the drawback of this ER model. So the next model was developed, and that was relational model. So relational model is predicted on first order predicate logic. This model was firstly introduced by Dr. Edutech in the 1970s. It represents data as a relation or table. So that means here data gets actually stored in terms of table. Relational database simplifies the database structure by making the use of tables and columns. So here whenever we store the data in terms of table, it will include rows and columns. Okay. For example, the softwares like DB2 developed by IBM, Oracle developed by Oracle Corporation, and MS SQL Server which is developed by Microsoft. So these are the some softwares which are based on relational data model. So now let's see the diagram, then you will come to know about the relational model. So here you can see in the above figure, the column represents the specific type of data which is known as attributes. For example, here in a third column, student age represents the age of all students, whereas each row represents the record of one entity which is known as tuple. So for example, here the fourth row represents the record like student ID 1104, student name Bob, student age 14, and class 9th, and the section is A. So like this we can store a data. Now we'll see the next advantages of relational model. So the first advantage is simplicity. So relational data model is less complicated compared to hierarchical and network model. Second, structural independence. So in a relational database, whenever we are concerning about the data, okay, and we are not concerning about the structure which we are upgrading, okay, so it will upgrade the performance of the model. Third, easy to use. The relational model is straightforward as the table consists of rows and columns, which is quite natural and simple to grasp or understand. Next advantage, query capability. So compared to any other data model, relational model is having a great feature, that is high level query language like SQL, which avoid the complex database navigation. Next, data independence. So the structure of database will be changed without having to alter any application. So we need not to make a changes in application. Without making changes, we can do the changes easily in a data. Next advantage, scalable. So regarding the number of records or rows and also the number of fields, a database should be enlarged to enhance its usability. So we can scale the model. Now the next is disadvantages of relational model. So the first disadvantage is few relational database have limits on field length that cannot be exceeded. Okay, like Microsoft Excel is having certain field length on a column, right? So that we cannot exceed. Second, relational database can sometimes become complex whenever the amount of information grows. Therefore, the relation between the pieces of data will become more complicated as the data grows. Next, relational databases are not well suited for modeling hierarchical data or geospatial data. For example, if you want to store the information about maps, geographical information, multimedia files having a large audio or video, okay, so there this model will not that much supportive. Next, maintaining relational database, especially at scale, can be expensive due to hardware requirements, licensing fees, and specialized expertise needed for management. Now the last model is your object model. Object model gets introduced in the mid of 1980. It stores the data within the variety of objects, classes, and inheritance. Now let me tell you what is object, class, and inheritance first. So object is nothing but what the part of class, okay, whereas class is nothing but the collection of objects. Okay, so for example, if you say mango, apple, banana, if these are the objects, then a fruit will be class for them. Okay, and then inheritance is nothing but what, when we want to show a relation between a parent and child class, then for that we are using inheritance. So this model support this all concept of object oriented programming. So then this model handles more complex applications like geographical information system, scientific experiment, engineering design, and manufacturing like CAD/CAM design, car model and all. It represents the real world objects, attributes and methods like behavior. It provides a transparent modular structure. So it is simple to take care of and modify the prevailing, that is common code. Now the software PLSQL, that is programming language in SQL, is based on this object model. Now we'll see one diagram from which you will get an idea about object model. So in this diagram, you can see the employee and department. These are the two real world objects and which are having their own attributes, methods. Okay, so here you can see in an employee ID, name, salary. Okay, these are nothing but what the attributes, whereas change number, get hired, these are nothing but the methods or applications. Okay, now whenever these objects want to communicate with each other, so for that they are using some common attribute. For example, here department ID is a common attribute between the employee and the department. Now the advantages of object model is it helps to develop the software with great speed and quality. It is very easy to maintain. Suppose a module is having an error, then a programmer can easily fix it, while the remaining part of the softwares are still running, still up, okay, without any effect. Second, it supports relatively hassle-free upgrades. So without any tedious job, without any hard work, you can easily do the upgradation and maintenance work. Next, it promotes the reusability of object design and function. So that means you can reuse the object. Once you have created it, you can reuse it. For example, if you have created the object person, then that same object, using that same object, okay, we can create a new object student. Only little bit changes you have to do. Okay, then it helps to minimize development risk, especially in integration of complex systems. So these are the advantages. Next, we will see the disadvantages of object model. So the first disadvantage is it is not suitable for all types of problem within a database system, and hence it's not accepted by all users. Second, maintenance complexity. So this model is poorly designed, having a poorly designed class hierarchy, or we can say a complex relationship between the objects, and which make this model difficult to understand, modify and maintain the code. Next, it is an approach which is useful only in object-oriented programming languages like C++, Java, Python and so on. Hence, it failed to place it in other languages. After that, memory uses. So object-oriented data structures can sometimes lead to increased memory uses, especially whenever you want to deal with the large number of objects. Thank you. Remaining we'll see in a next session.